Hey everybody, my name's TS and I write comics. How's it going, everybody? My name's TS and I write comics, and I'm answering questions about Hellion and Bass issue 1 and making comics. So if you have any questions about anything like that, please let me know. I'm about to go live with issue number 2 of Hellion and Bash. You can pick up issue 1 in that campaign too. If you missed issue 1, no worries. You'll be able to catch up before you read issue 2 right in that same campaign. Oh. How's everybody doing today? Russ, what's going on, dude? It's been a minute. How you doing? My name's TS and I write comics. If anybody has any questions about making comics, writing comics, or publishing your own, let me know. I published Hellion and Bash issue number 1, ran it on Kickstarter just a few months ago. It's all fully done. We're providing it to backers, and we're about to launch issue number 2 because we have a publisher now, Professional Entropy. So if you have questions about anything like that, please hit me up. And check out a copy. If you haven't read issue number 1, don't worry about that. In the new Kickstarter, you'll be able to pick up both, so you can catch up right now. There's a little ad for my other comic, Tokyo Fire, on the back. But yeah, please hit me with anything, questions, comments, concerns, complaints. If you just want to, complain about the world, I'm here to listen for that as well. Why not? You got to fill time. How's everybody doing today? I'm doing a second stream. I had promised a stream on my Patreon to do like a live Q&A for issue 1, and I did one of them last night, and I had a lot of people message me saying that they couldn't make it, so we were doing a second one today. Hey, found you from Ultra Comics. Hey, that's so cool. Thanks so much for stopping by. I love Ultra Comics. Esteban is an awesome dude, an amazing illustrator. I'm going to be working with him eventually. We have so many scripts in our little indie community that float around. I can't wait to be making stuff with him, but please go check out Ultra Comics. And if you like his stuff, hopefully you'll like mine. I love writing comics, and I just started doing superhero stuff. I've done a lot of other indie books, but it's been a blast, man. Let me know what you like from E too. Like if there's anything in particular that you dig about his stuff, I can see if there's a connection. Don't mind me. I'm just fidgeting with stuff. Helena Bash is fun. Can't wait for more. Russ, you're the best. Thank you, dude. I'm live streaming as well over on YouTube. So if you see me, bounce back and forth, that's what's going on. YouTube and TikTok. Six Skills, how you doing today, dude? If anybody is also excited for Hellion and Bash issue 2, like I said, it's about to launch on Kickstarter. You can head on over there. There's a link in my bio. And you can click the notify me upon launch button. And that really helps with the Kickstarter algorithm. It gets people noticing. I think I have 40 pre-saves so far. And this one has a publisher. So I need to show off and show them that my fans and other people are excited about the book. It'd be really cool to get more pre-saves on there. So if this looks cool to you at all, consider backing it. Hey, good morning, White. How you doing? And if anybody has any questions about making your own comic books, writing comics, finding a publisher for your comics, or self-publishing, I can help answer any of those questions to the best of my abilities. I do know some things. If you have questions about breaking into comics, I think that's arguable that I've done that, so I don't know how much I can help you there, but I can tell you anything that I've done. Malik, yo, what's going on, dude? And feel free to send this to anybody else. If you know anybody who likes making comics, who's on the edge of thinking about doing their own, please go ahead and invite them. Let them know that I'm answering questions like this. Go ahead and share it to people. I'd really appreciate it because I love answering questions like that, and I love seeing other people launch their own comics. A lot of people send me their scripts and tell me about the books that they're going to launch, or they have questions about that stuff, and I just love talking about it. I love seeing other people create their own stuff. I got into making comics because I saw people doing it and saw that it was possible, and I wanted to be a part of it. And it really is, and it's a blast. I don't know why I ever did anything else other than money. I'll tell you that there's not a lot of money in indie comics. I don't make a lot of money off selling these, but it's worth it because it's just the coolest job ever. I used to have like a cushy one, I sent a question. What'd you ask? What did I miss here? I'm sorry, Higgins, if I saw something. I've seen your Hellion and Bash on a few vids. Do you ship to England or have digital copies? Two answers, Higgins. I do ship to England. In fact, some of them are arriving today in the UK because I had to send a second shipment. I think some of them got lost on a boat, literally. So I definitely ship to England. No worries there. And I have digital copies as well. They're about to go on pre-sale as soon as issue 2's Kickstarter is done. So if you're really interested and you want to jump on the bandwagon, we're launching issue 2 next week on Kickstarter. So you can go over there and feel free to follow. There's going to be issue 1s and issue 2s in there. So if you missed out, you can catch up. Digital copies abound, and digital copies ship out first. So if you really want to catch up fast. So yeah, don't worry about that. I'll ship anywhere somebody wants one of my comics. I'll get it there. What's your favorite phrase you like to repeat because it's funny, like a TikTok sound, Hey, my name's TS and I write comics is the big one. I've created my own tick or my own stim because I have a catchphrase. It started out because I was kind of afraid and not sure how to open up these videos and like what to say when I first came on. So I was like, well, if I have a catchphrase that says my name, it's a good introduction when I first come on, and it just becomes a thing. Now when I email people, even if they know who I am, I say, hey, my name's TS and I write comics, as like a funny bit. So I kind of did it myself. Bro, I have been in a hyperbolic time chamber writing Armor 2. You're going to get your mind blown. Dude, I cannot wait till you get that stuff out there, Malik. Armor of the Gods. Go check that out, people. It's going to be awesome. In like 5 years for Volume 6. Cool. I'll have a look. I was on Impound's live yesterday, and he doesn't ship to UK on his shop. Oh, okay. I'm not really mutuals with Impound, but I'll ship wherever. It does cost a little bit more money. I do lose money shipping it elsewhere, but my goal is to get my book into as many hands as possible, because one of the reasons why I started self-publishing my own indie comics was I had some good stuff. I had pitched to publishers. I had some impressive artists lined up and working with me, and I was making these pitch packets, and I was pitching to any publisher with an open submission. And I kept getting notes back like, hey, listen, this is good, surprisingly like impressive, but we're not going to publish it. You don't have any fans. You've never made a comic book and put it out before, so we're not going to do it. So I asked, I was honest when I started getting these notes from publishers. I was like, okay, what should I be doing then? And they said, publishing it yourself. Get it out there. Show us that you care that much, that you put your own money on the line to get these issues out, and then we'll start considering you. So I did that with Tokyo Fire. Was my first one. I ran a crowdfunding campaign with the co-creator Sky Hawkins. We ran it on Zoop, and it made like $3-ish grand off just the campaign. And then we sold, hundreds of copies afterwards. And that was enough to go, okay, this is what we should be doing. We can't pitch to publishers yet. Let's keep doing books like this. And I went right into making Hellion and Bash. And that got the attention of publishers. I did what they asked me to do, and it paid off. So Professional Entropy was a brand new publisher. They bought Hellion and Bash and Tokyo Fire, and they're doing the full series run for Tokyo Fire. And they said they do Hellion and Bash starting with issue number 2, as long as people are buying it. And then I got a deal with Invader Comics. They're publishing my new comic book, The Digger, later on in the year. And it's because I was willing to put my own money on the line. Like I said, I lose a little bit of money when I ship these far away, but you get awesome fans like you willing to check it out. Of course, I'm going to send you whatever I can. And digital copies are also welcome. Honestly, digital copies are wonderful because there's no overhead. I don't have to pay for them to be printed. So it's a lot more profit, technically. I'm getting digital postage from USA makes me cry. It's so bad. The postage is so bad. I charge $10 to ship international. It usually costs more than that. Like the package I just shipped to the UK cost $20 to ship because it was like an island. But like I said, it's worth it. If people are excited about my comic book, I can eat the cost to get it into your hands. I think it's so cool. I think you would do well sending to Antarctic Press. They are more of an listen. I know the dudes over at Antarctic Press. I've talked to the editor in chief over there, and they're not accepting stuff right now. They like the stuff that I'm doing, but they're not accepting stuff right now because of the whole diamond situation. So I was in talks over there, but they're just not, they can't do anything that they don't currently actively own. So they've paused all of their creator owned submission processes because they don't know if they're going to be able to get it into stores' hands right now, until a lot of these smaller publishers figure out the direct market without a distributor. Until Lunar or Penguin or someone like that steps up to fill that void, you're going to see a lot of those smaller companies slowing down on their purchasing or licensing of creator owned projects and just doing stuff that they own currently. It's so nice seeing people so genuinely passionate about what they do. Please keep going. Thank you so much, Emo Pup. I am passionate. Honestly, this is the coolest thing I've ever done, and I love this job so much. I love making comics. I love talking about it. I love helping other people make comic books. I say yes to a lot of projects that I probably shouldn't, because I should probably sleep instead. And it's because I love comics. Before this, I was a technical writer for automotive companies. So I wrote really boring stuff about car parts. One time I got to write about a battery that exploded if you put it in the wrong car, and I got to coin thermal event, and that was really fun because that was the interesting thing. Also, I'm like, people need to know that this thing is not going to go well. But other than that, it was a very, very boring job and not a good time. And I was finally at my wit's end, and my wife told me to like quit and to start making comic books. So I did, and I will never go back. This is the best job I've ever had, and I love comic books more than anything that's not a person. So shame. Ben is a cool guy. A lot of the dudes over at Antarctic are really cool, and they were really nice. And one of the few publishers, like I said, Invader Comics, Professional Entropy, but one of the few publishers that when I wrote them, they gave me honest feedback. They helped me figure out how to fit into that, and they were really honest when I said, "Hey, I got a project. I know you were looking. You like my stuff. Can I work with you?" And they were really honest, saying, "Listen, we can't hire anybody right now." And a lot of publishers are still kind of quiet about that at this moment, but they were really honest, which was really cool. What's happening with Diamond? Well, Higgins, if you're familiar with comic books at all, but even if you're not, a lot of publishers, what they do is they make the book, they get it printed, and then it goes to a warehouse, and it's a distributor to get that in the hands of all the comic book shops that you go to and frequent. And the comic book shops order from that distributor, and then those comic books go there. So they're like a middleman for getting your comic books from the publisher to a comic book shop. And Diamond was the biggest one. They're the big fish. They had a monopoly basically on a large swath of the market, and they weren't doing a great job. A lot of the publishers weren't enjoying what they were getting, partly because stuff was coming late, stuff was coming damaged, and eventually payments were not going through. So they've declared bankruptcy, and because of that, Diamond was one of the only publishers that carried a lot of small distributors that carried small publishers, like things like Blood Moon, Invader Comics, Antarctic. And so because they're going under, or at least in the process of possibly going under, a lot of these smaller publishers are losing their distribution, which means they can't get their books in the hands of local comic book shops. And that means a lot of people like me trying to break into the business are doing our best to help comic book shops and publishers link up and do direct sales, so it can ship directly from the publisher to the local comic book shop. That comes with a lot of other complications, and a lot of shops just aren't set up to do that. They ordered from Diamond every month. They went through, they ordered what they wanted, and it was done. That changed a little bit when Lunar came on the scene and Penguin, and so they ordered from those three places. Now, if they want to order anything indie, they got to go directly to that indie publisher, and they have to work out a deal and buy stuff there. And that means a lot more work that those shops have to do. And not every shop wants to do that. So that's kind of what's going down right now. What's your Facebook page called? Can't Be Killed Creations. I'm Can't Be Killed Creations over on Facebook, but I'm at TS Luther everywhere else. Anywhere you want to go. I'm not super active on Facebook. I post anything that goes on like Instagram or Blue Sky, also goes over to Facebook because I don't use a lot of meta platforms. Instagram was kind of like a co thing when this was going down. But I post all that everywhere, but I'm really active on Blue Sky and here on TikTok. And my website is can'tbekilledcreations.com. You can usually find what I'm up to over there. I have a page over on Professional Entropy's website because I'm their main author. I don't know if any of my stuff's up on Invader yet because I don't think they're soliciting the Digger yet, but you can find me. I'm around. Heck yeah, Stan hugs your way. Thank you, Emo Pup. You're the best. Thank you. I'm not crying. You're crying. I'm familiar with comics. I just don't go shops often. Higgins, I'm the same way. I don't hit up a lot of shops. Oh dear, that's a big void with Diamond out. It really is. I went to a comic book shop on Friday. I looked for Eric Larson, the Savage Dragon. Couldn't find back issues. A lot of comic book shops don't carry back issues. It's expensive to hold. It takes up a lot of space on the shelf, and a lot of back issues aren't worth what they used to be. So it's like you can put stuff in your store that you can sell for 99 cents, or you can put stuff in your store that'll sell for $5-6 as a margin instead. And so it doesn't always carry. As a staff member, they said they only order it for subscribers. Wasn't even on my trade paperbacks. Yeah, and that's the other thing with a lot of local comic book shops. They can't carry stuff that they don't know will sell. That's why a lot of shops locally for me won't even talk to me, even though like I have good sales records, I have a good book. They don't carry anything indie. It's got to go through a publisher and through a distributor to get in their shops because they just don't have the space or the time to vet it and to curate it and to have the money to order it. Makes no sense. Savage Dragon won't get new readers if it's not on the shelf. Yeah, it's true. But they have to play this game of staying alive. And sadly, the easiest way to stay alive, and I mean, not sadly, but just the truth of it is the easiest way for a local comic book shop to stay alive is to order Marvel and DC. What is Blue Sky? I'm out of touch. Malik, Blue Sky is like old Twitter, is the best way to put it. I recommend going over there. It's a good place if you enjoyed old Twitter. They had everything from Marvel. Some of it was awful. Listen, I can't speak to that, and I don't like bashing other people's books. But Marvel sells, right? So if you're a comic book shop and you have to pay rent every month, you can take a chance on a T.S. Luther book. You can buy 10 copies of Hellion and Bash that no one's ever heard of. That it looks okay, but that doesn't matter. Is that going to get people into the store? Probably not. You know what will get people in the store? Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Black Panther, Ultimate X-Men. That will get people in the store. People are talking about it on social media. People are excited about it. I think I saw it on the local news. Maybe I should go to the shop. I can't buy Spider-Man 600 and understand what's going on, but I can buy Spider-Man #1. I understand that #1 is where it starts. And I like Spider-Man, so I'm going to go to the store. And that's just how it goes. An open source Twitter replacement. That's right. Thank you so much for the likes, dudes. I really appreciate it. Hey, dude, hanging out from the office. Can't wait for Hellion and Bash #2 and beyond. Thank you so much, Dave. My brother Dave, really cool dude. Getting into lettering. I love people like figuring out that comic books are possible and can do it. And sadly, it's like they see me and they're like, "Oh, that goober can do it. I can make comics too." Then, and you know what? That's a cool way to go about it. Some of the prices on back issues were shocking. I stick to indies. I've had to lower my prices a lot to get people to take a chance on them. And some people, when you buy a back issue, you buy a collection. Say it costs $1,000, and you get 1,000 comics. Some of those comics are going to be worth more than $1, so you're going to make money. You can mark them up, and people will buy it. Some books were worth 40 cents, right? So you have to mark them in a way that balances out so you can keep the lights on. They're not trying to rob you usually. They're usually just trying to stay afloat and make that purchase worth it. Comic books are scripts for movies and games. Comic books. So I've talked about this a lot. When I was pitching Professional Entropy, when I knew some dudes, they were starting to get into publishing. They wanted to get into comic books. They knew me, and they were like, "Hey, thank you so much, Higgins. I really appreciate you." When they were starting to get into publishing, they were talking to me about the value of a comic book, and they're artists. They appreciated all that stuff, but they weren't sure long-term value for comic books, what it is. Because, for instance, we sell Hellion and Bash for $5. Okay, it costs us about $1 to $2 to print, give or take. That's $3 margin. You're making $3 on it, but then after shipping, you're really not. You're not making much off the single issues. So where's the value? Well, once you get to a trade, once we get to issue 4 or 5, we're going to make a trade of this. You can sell that for a little bit more. People support trades really well on Kickstarter. You can make a little bit of money, but just a little bit. The real value that comes from comic books, other than just art being valued, people enjoying it, the real value for consumer companies that want to make money is IP. They're an IP farm. Marvel, DC, Image, Boom, IDW, it does not matter. They're IP farms. You can sell that to make other things. You can sell stickers of it. You can make T-shirts. You can license and do the movie rights. Right. That's where the value for larger companies comes in. Every contract I've signed with a publisher or been offered by a publisher comes with a caveat that, hey, we're going to try to sell this as a movie. We're going to give you some money. We're going to take some money. We all know that we're not going to make much money selling this as a book. But maybe if some studio options it, we can all make some money. And so that is the way that it go. I don't write for them to eventually become a movie or anything like that. I write them to be a comic book. But it's nice when we talked. I was talking to a small animator here in Michigan, and they were talking about wanting to make a cartoon. And it's like, yeah, that would be cool. That's a paycheck for me. It probably won't happen. Agony Prime, thank you so much, dude. You're the best. But it is where a lot of companies see value in comics. Oh my God, I gotta scroll back up. Thank you so much for the gifts, dudes. You're the best. I've joined your TikTok team. Did you know about this feature? I did not. What is a TikTok team? Please explain it to me. I'm old. I'm working on a single trade right now. Slow but exciting. Heck yeah, Zelt. That's really cool. I'm excited to hear about it. What's your book about? I always write for single issues. I basically write them as a chapter for a longer story. All my stories are usually standalone. I've done a few like one shots for other companies. I wrote a couple of one shots for indie dudes here. But I usually write as like, this is going to be an entertaining chapter, 22-ish pages, and I work towards a trade. So I can get some value out of the single issues, get the book made, and then sell it as a trade. Click your profile. There is a heart logo. It tells you how many people joined your team. Okay, that's really cool. Do you get like notified when I go live or anything like that? Or is it just about like building up my team? So when I do one of those like head-to-head things, you're counted. I got 2 people on my team. I'm doing pretty well. I don't know how everybody else is doing. Team Quest. All right. There's perks. Each level unlocks more stuff. All right, cool. I'll definitely look into it. Thanks, Higgins. I appreciate it. All takes place in one universe. First one is called Chima, focusing on a weak old man trying to gain power by any means. All right, cool, man. Shared universe stuff is really fun. I try not to put the cart before the horse with a lot of my stuff, but I have other stories. I've already talked to Professional Entropy. If Hellion and Bash issue 2 sells well enough, we have other stories that we'd like to tell in that world. But I just try to focus on one at a time. I work towards the trade so I can tell them, hey, I have a plan for 5 issues, right? But I would love to go full Marvel and do, different parts of the universe. But you have to be aware with indie comics that even if you have 60 or so fans, which I would say that even though I have all these awesome people in here, I have 60 or so people that give me money for comic books. Even if all of them gave me hundreds of dollars each month, they could still only sustain that for one book. Right now, they can only sustain buying one book every few months. As I never want to like bleed my audience and put out too many books because you're going to get less excited. This is never going to be your favorite book when things like Marvel and DC and Boom and these larger companies exist. So I try to go sparingly. I try to put out the single issues while I can. I'm going to do a second book later on from Professional Entropy. I'm going to continue Tokyo Fire's story. But I know that I wouldn't be able to sustain doing 2 or 3 books in the same universe every other month yet, so I just try not to push it. I like people who can do a comic and not drop it after 1 or 2 issues, like a certain a big thing for doing Hellion and Bash and Tokyo Fire when I was licensing stuff to Professional Entropy when they were signing me was like, hey, how many books do you want to do? What do you want to do? Do you want to do something new? And I was like, hey, I'd rather not do something new. If you're going to offer me money, I would love to just continue Hellion and Bash and Tokyo Fire with you because I promised at least a storyline of each of those. And I would love to continue that. Also to show off on my resume, to work with larger publishers. I want to complete these stories and show you that I know how to write a full story because I know that, but other people don't know that. So I really wanted to stick with it and to reward the people who backed issue 1 of everything and show them that story continues and not try to convince you and sell you on a new series before it's time. What's your Facebook page for your comic? I don't have one specifically for my comic. It Can't Be Killed Creations is my one Facebook that I use. I don't really use Facebook here in the States. It's just not as popular and filled with a lot of like crappier content. But if you head to professionalentropy.com, there's a whole page for Hellion and Bash. And I have here, and I'm on Blue Sky. Like I said, I'm on those places, but I don't have a special page just for Hellion and Bash. Although I might open up one because we're running ads. Where like I cut a trailer for Hellion and Bash, and that's going up places. I think it's live on TikTok right now. So if you see an ad for Hellion and Bash, I'm sorry, or you're welcome, depending on if you enjoyed it. I write mine as book chapters first, and then script it chapter by chapter. It's just one chapter, but starts the overall story for other characters. That's rad. It's like kind of like exploding it out. Gotcha. Add a website link to something on your bio. Oh, like on my Facebook? Yeah, I'll definitely do that. That's a good call. I haven't logged in. I just already had it set up to like auto post from other stuff. I have a link in my bio here on Blue Sky, Instagram. So if you're looking for anything like that, if you don't want to search anything up, I have links there. But yeah, I'll definitely good call. I'll add something to the Facebook so I can follow you elsewhere. I did have a link. The Instagram link broke, but I'm at TS Luther everywhere else, Higgins, at TS Luther on Blue Sky, Instagram. Go and find me. I promise I do post elsewhere. I'm just most active here on TikTok. And then I repost stuff to YouTube Shorts and Reels. But if you go to Blue Sky, there are a lot of pictures of my dog and my cat. People love the dog and cat videos. Yeah, I'm interested in any trades you might have made. I'll do some research after work today. Oh, yeah, I haven't had enough to get out for full trades. I have issue 1 of Tokyo Fire out. I have Hellion and Bash issue 1. I'm about to launch issue 2. I did a short anthology called Growing Up a few years ago that's available. And The Digger is coming out from Invader Comics later this year. That will be a trade. That's 4 issues that are going to be collected afterwards. So if you're looking for long form stuff to like binge of mine, you're gonna have a harder time because people only recently started saying yes and noticing me. So I've put out a lot of single issues and pitch packets to places. You're at the front of the train. You're watching the journey unfold here. I've been at this for several years, but I'm only now getting noticed by companies to get that stuff out. I got it. I wasn't displaying until I went direct to your TikTok profile. Got it. Social media is such a crapshoot sometimes when it comes to like, oh, well, I'm here and I'm there and there's a link here. And that's why I just say I'm at TS Luther on everything. You'll find me wherever I'm posting if you look for that. Awesome single issues make me nervous about messing them up easier. Can't wait for your trades though. I appreciate that. And sure, they're definitely easy to mess up, but mess them up. Who cares? This is not going to be a collector's item. That's why I sign anything I send out, but yes, the Insta link is broke on this site, but it is at TS Luther. I'm just at TS Luther on Instagram. But when it comes to these books, these aren't going to be worth a ton. I get a little bit frustrated when I see people selling theirs going, it's going to be the next big thing. This probably won't be the next big thing. It's a stepping stone for stuff. And I sign all of them, but most comic books, even if you got the next big thing, comic books are not going to be worth a ton of money these days. There's so many other books. It's such a saturated market. Even books that are somewhat rare with a variant cover and they're signed by someone who's giant, it's not going to be worth tons of money. They're not going to be worth millions of dollars. I have number ones that are signed by artists and writers for stuff that has been picked up for Netflix deals, and it's not worth thousands of dollars. So feel free to mess it up. If it messes up so bad and you need another copy, you can get another copy cheap. I always mark them down after the issue 2 comes out, and I can always send you digital copies too. So don't worry about that. And then when the trade comes out, that's when you can get like a good collector's one to go on the shelf. I do a lot of trade stuff too. And I hate being that guy, but when it comes to a lot of indie stuff, it takes us a while to get to a trade, not just because it takes us longer to put out a book, but because it costs a lot of money. So in order for us to get to that point and survive, we have to sell a lot of the single issues. It's not a given that we're going to make it to the trade, sadly. For Spirits of Hellion and Bash, Netflix show deal. I like one world comics with easy to understand continuity. Well, listen, Hellion and Bash is your thing. The whole idea of Hellion and Bash is who protects a sidekick from their superhero, right? So you have your Batman stand-in, you have your Robin stand-in, and who protects Robin from Batman? Who's going to stand up to Batman? Everyone's afraid of Batman. Everyone's afraid that if they did stand up to Batman, say they took him out, who protects the world? We need Batman. Is it okay to let Robin be in a bad situation until this cat burglar, the world's greatest thief, Bash, steps in to save him. And that's what the book's really about. It's about the complacency of all these other heroes in the community, and a villain steps up to save this kid. Uh, who sidekicks the sidekick? Bet, good advice. If my check clears today, I'll get an order then. Listen, I appreciate it, Zelt. Don't even stress about it. Hellion and Bash issue number 2 is about to launch on Kickstarter. When that goes live, drop a few bucks over there, catch up on issues 1 and 2, so you have a few to read. That's going to go live next week. So don't stress about it today. Pick them up when that Kickstarter goes. That would be really appreciated. Even bigger fan for drawing Red Guardian. Oh yeah. I mean, I also illustrate stuff. I don't draw these comics. This is drawn by Marcus Pedro, a buddy of mine out of Brazil, an amazing artist. I had to learn a lot more Portuguese. I knew a little bit. I had to learn a lot more to hunt down his stuff because he was so good. And I was like, hey, I really want to do a superhero comic with you. And he just happened to want to start doing American comics because he was trying to break in over here. So it really worked out. But I do draw a little bit on the side. I do covers for people. I do take commissions every once in a while. I'm like an off-brand. We have Scotty Young or Jorge Corona at home kind of illustrator. But if you're looking for stuff, I do take commissions and I do covers. I've illustrated a few interior pages now and then. I'm a much better writer and I'm much more prolific than that way. And I prefer to write. But hiring artists is expensive, so I've learned to draw on my way, on my journey. Plus, it helps understand the people that I'm working with. I want to understand every part of the comic, so I'm not asking something of them that's too difficult, and at least understanding what I'm asking of them when it comes to doing art, or I've learned lettering. I've learned a lot of the different aspects that go into creating a comic book, because I think you should, and it helps me have more empathy for what I'm asking them to do as we create comics. Issue 1 is great. Issue 2 is going to be even better because of the cameos. I do offer cameos in a lot of my books too if you back them on Kickstarter. They're a little bit expensive to see yourself in the book, but if that's something that you really want and you're excited about, That Nerdy Papa Bear has his original character, Colonel Jefferson, from his comic book, Colonel Jefferson. He appears in the book. Several other people have purchased cameos. I love putting cameos in there. I do thank you pages. You can get producer credits so you can see yourself in that comic book, because for a lot of people, that's all they want. They just want to be a part of something. And so if I can help do that and it helps me make the next issue, I love being able to offer that. Awesome. Will do. Thanks, man. I appreciate you, Zelt. I know you're like, here, let me give you money. And I'm like, hold on. But like, I want to make sure that it all works out. My artist is from Brazil too. Heck yeah. I worked at a Brazilian help desk when I was first getting into technical writing and working for automotive companies. And it was like, listen, we don't have a job for you unless you can help these car dealerships that we've opened in Brazil. And I was like, cool. What does that mean? They're like, here is a Portuguese tourist guide, and you're going to answer the phone and you're going to help learn this. And whoever thought they would help me make comics one day, but it did. So it was really, really cool. And Marcus is one of the coolest guys working in comics. I love that dude. He's so nice and super duper talented. I don't know why he works with me, but I love it. Life works in funny ways. It really does. Like Colonel Jefferson. Yep. I got a couple people in the YouTube chat pointing out that Colonel Jefferson was mentioned. Shout out to Russell Frechette, an amazing artist who actually did some pinups for issue 2. So you're going to get some art prints of Pterodactyl, which is the big bad kind of in issue 1, this giant green kaiju that is in no way related to Sauron from Marvel. Legally distinct. I can't see Hellion to buy as digital on your site. It's not for sale on digital on my site, Higgins. That's what I was saying before. You got to wait for the Kickstarter next week for Hellion and Bash issue 2. You'll be able to back and buy issues 1 and 2. After that campaign, we'll open sales for issue 1, digital, physical, from everything that we have. But we wanted to push people to the Kickstarter for number 2 to buy them over there because it helps us get those numbers up on Kickstarter. Got too excited. Sorry. No, it's okay. I appreciate it. I love that you're excited. I love that you want to do it. Head on over to Kickstarter, hit that notify me when it launches button. That really, really helps. We have about 40 pre-saves or so right now. And the more people that pre-save it, the better we do on Kickstarter's algorithm, the more people that find out about it and will get notified. And that's why we're pushing everybody over there, because we could have already been selling more issues of number 1. Right now, what I was doing in the background is I've reached out to a lot of shops to sell copies. I have like 15 copies I got to ship out today to a couple of shops, and then I'm direct marketing to more shops right now, and I won't open sales for it until Kickstarter is done with issue number 2. and then you'll be able to buy copies of it. But I wanted to make sure that I provided enough, I don't know, sales for Professional Entropy to be excited about doing issue number 3. So I made the decision to hold off selling it directly until the campaign was going on. So I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm not trying to turn down. I just would love if you wouldn't support the Kickstarter. And it's okay. If you go to the Kickstarter, I have a tier on there when it launches that you can just buy issue number 1. If you're like, I don't know if I want issue number 2, you can do a build your own tier and just buy the add-on for issue number 1, and you don't have to stress about it or worry about it. And then if you like it, you can come back and do issue 2. Does anybody have any questions about creating comics? Hellion and Bash issue number 1, fully finished, and it's going to be on the Kickstarter for Hellion and Bash issue number 2, which is going live next week. So if you want to check out indie comic with superheroes, please check it out. My Kickstarter app won't sign in on my phone, so I have to use my computer at home. That's okay, Zelt. Hopefully you can remember this face and T.S. Luther, Hellion and Bash number 2, by the time you get home. If you don't, no offense is taken. And then if you scroll through, throughout the rest of the month and you think of me, that's okay. Check to see if I have any other comments here. Richard Camp, how's it going, dude? Sorry, having to do logistics. That's a big part of making your own comic books. I wish it was just writing all day. I wish it was just like, hey, I get to make up cool stories all day. But like 90% of my job is handling emails and logistics and doing marketing and doing lives like this. I have a podcast tonight. I'm going to be on Ace Blade's podcast. And then I have another podcast next week, and I'm trying to get on more just to tell more people about Hellion and Bash. And the majority of what I do day to day is just reaching out to people going, hey, do you want to check out a copy? I see that you do sponsored posts or whatever. Are you interested in my book? You cover comic books. Do you want a review copy? Do you know anybody else who does? I have a press release going out to every single news site possible tomorrow, basically giving them issue 1 and talking about issue 2 about to go live on Kickstarter. It is what it is. It's like half the job. No doubt. I check out your stuff out often, so I won't forget. Oh, Zelt, that means a lot, dude. Thank you so much. What's the elevator pitch for Hellion and Bash? The elevator pitch for Hellion and Bash is who protects a sidekick from their superhero. Basically, it's what if Batman was abusing Robin and none of the superheroes stepped up because they were afraid of what that would mean for the superhero community. Who would protect the world if we got rid of Batman? And also, they're a little bit afraid of Batman. So until Catwoman finds out how bad it is for Hellion, no one does anything. But when the super thief Bash, our Catwoman stand-in, sees, he goes, you know what? Doesn't matter. I'm going to save this kid. And it's about those two on the run from the entire superhero community. The first issue is mostly a heist book. It's about Bash pulling a heist when a giant kaiju attacks the city and everybody else is running for their lives. They're fighting it off. He goes, well, this is the perfect opportunity to rob the city blind. And the story unravels from there. But I really, really enjoy writing the story, and it's mostly about this kid. It's mostly about victims and what it means to be a hero. But I put it in under a superhero lens so people can really still enjoy the book and not just eat their vegetables, Sign up for Kickstarter and fade your profile. Oh, I appreciate that, dude. Thank you so much. That it does mean a lot. Like I know I sound like it's hyperbole, but it means a ton. Every single number. That means that there's probably like 41-ish backers on there. When Zelt gets around to it, 42. That means everything to me. That's 42 people that are excited about my comic book, which makes it possible for me to do this job, which, as I've said, is one of my favorite things. I just wish I could draw it myself. Would save a ton of money. You totally would save a lot of money if you could draw it yourself. But I will say, even as somebody who does draw his own stuff sometimes, number one, the people that I work with are way better caliber writers or artists than I am. But also, the stuff that comes back when I write a page and I hand it to an artist and I get art back, it's like magic. It's alchemy, what they just did, what they pulled off. We created something like so much better than we would have done separately. And, we created a baby together. We created this comic book, and it would not be nearly as good as if I drew it. Even if I could draw as well as Marcus, which I can't, it is magic because it's not just me. It's me and him and the letterers, Fish Lee, Mike Stock, and we brought it together to create something really special. Is sending review copies a valuable move? I have a few people I'd send to for marketing when printed. Sending review copies to anybody who talks about comic books is a good move, in my opinion, because most people aren't going to buy it if they've never heard of it. I send it to anybody who talks about comics, anybody who's willing to, even people that you're going to pay to talk about it. So you want to do sponsored posts, they don't care. The biggest thing you're going to run into is people just having apathy towards anything that you're creating. So sending them a copy, greasing the wheels any way that you can to get to go, hey, look at this, it's actually pretty good, is a good way to go. So physical copies only if they're not willing to take digital copies. Try not to hurt your bottom line because it costs a lot of money to print comics. So I send digital copies if they're open to it. If they absolutely have to have a physical copy, send them a physical copy, and it's worth it if they have an audience that they will tell about it. Love that pitch. Thank you so much, Higgins. I appreciate it. I've worked really hard on this book to get it to a point where it's like, hey, like you have to spoil some things to tell a story about an indie book, because if I just said it's about a superhero guy, buy it, it doesn't work. So I have to spoil some things about it, but I promise that the journey is worth it. Which comic writer was the first to inspire you? Whew. That's a big question, Higgins. I don't know what the first comic book writer was to inspire me. I'm inspired by so many different comic book writers. I will say for this story in particular, there were two stories that really made me go, hey, my story is possible. And that is Robert Kirkman from Invincible and Michael Avon Oeming with The Victories. Oeming, if you don't know, co-creator of Powers, did his own superhero universe called The Victories, and it had a lot of heavy stories. The first story in it is very, very similar to an idea like this. It's about a superhero who dealt with abuse in his childhood, and it's about him coping with that as he's become basically this world's like Spider-Man like hero. And when I read that, I was like, oh, you can tell heavier stories with superheroes. Dark and gritty isn't the only way to do superheroes that aren't Marvel or DC. You can tell more mature stories without it just being, the heads being lopped off and stuff. Okay. Like you can do some really interesting stuff with it. And then I read all of Invincible as well when I was younger. And Invincible is one of the best comic books in the universe. If you read the cover, and they told all sorts of stories in there, slice of life, heavier stories, and then like generic superhero fare. But generic is not the word I would really use for it. And it just showed me that you can do something really special with your own universe, even if you don't have the rights to Spider-Man and Batman. And so Kirkman and Oeming were the two very, very large inspirations. But also every Batman story I've ever read. I'm a giant fan of Tim Drake's Robin, especially his run from like the early 2000s, the 90s. I love all of those so much. So all of that culminated into this. Fish is a busy guy. I've seen him a few times too. Fish is the fastest working dude in comics, and because of that, he can take a lot of jobs. I'm working on several different books with Fish. I'm his main editor on all of his books, and I help him write some stuff. I've written stuff in all of his universes, but also I'm working on a new series with Fish, and I had wrote a script for him, and I was like, "Hey, listen, don't pay me for editing. Trade. Let's do a trade. You draw some stuff for me. I'll keep editing for you. Help you write stuff." And he drew a book for me, and I was like, listen, this is really, really good. I don't know how long it's going to take you to do another issue. And I sent him a script on Monday, and the issue was finished on Friday. And that is why he's the busiest guy, because not only is he fast, but he's consistent and he's talented. And he has a great work ethic. So if you ever are considering hiring somebody to work on a book, please consider Fish Lee first, because he's amazing and he does almost all of it himself. Great advice. Thanks. I have to go back into work now. See you next time. Thanks, Zelt. Thanks so much for stopping by, dude. Appreciate you. I know Michael, not heard of The Victories. Go pick up The Victories. Oeming is one of my favorite comic book creators, period. Like I said, very big inspiration. Super duper nice guy. One of the first pros to even give me the time of day to respond to an email. Love that dude. So good. And The Victories, honestly, like sleeper gem from Dark Horse. It kind of bothers me sometimes that people haven't read it. I highly recommend it. And his new book, if you really want to support him, Newbury, amazing. Loved it. I put out Hellion and Bash this month, right? Like it was a thing. My wife actually, I had messaged her. I was going to make a video marketing it. I was like, hey, what was your favorite comic book that you read this month? Thinking that she was going to say Hellion and Bash, and she replies Newbury. Like no hesitation. And I had to post it because I'm like, this is the best ad for Newbury I could send. So I highly recommend that. And I'm so glad that you've heard of them, but please go back and check out The Victories. It's such a good story. read the first trade paperback of Invincible. It was fresh. I love it. Invincible is one of my favorite comic books of all time. It's only 144 issues with very few tie-ins. There are still some, like Astounding Wolfman, the Adam Eve special, some of those, but or Guardians of the Globe is another good tie-in. But for the most part, it's just 144 issues that don't miss. That story is so good. I haven't watched any of season 3, but I love the adaptation as well. I still like the comic book more, but I do love the cartoon. Who is your favorite Batman writer and artist? Oh, that's unfair. I can't say one. There's no single combo that I'm like, oh, this one's better ever. Man, Snyder and Jock on Black Mirror comes to mind. That's one of my favorites. Everything that Tynion did. I love so much of the New 52 Snyder that he did. A lot of the newer stuff. I liked the majority of Tom King's run. There were some I didn't always dig. Like I didn't love the Bane issue, but I love so much else of what he did. And then like classics, you can't go wrong with something like Long Halloween. But it's such a big question. You know what, though? A little bit of a cop-out. I love World's Finest right now, and Dan Mora drawing any superhero is my favorite. So I really dig that one. I saw his work samples on his wall. Today I bought some comic packs. I got issues of Astro City, Real Heroes, Desperados, and some others. That's a hell of a lineup. That's a good read setup. I was reading Void Rivals Volume 2 and Transformers Volume 2. Ain't No Grave from Scotty Young. Love Scotty Young. You know who I haven't read, and I know I'm going to love it because I love everything else he's ever worked on, is Chip Zdarsky's run on Batman. Haven't read any of it yet. I've been a little bit behind on some of that stuff, but I'm so excited to just binge it. Haven't watched the cartoon yet. I love the cartoon. Great adaptation. Like, so good. Carries the spirit of it really well. Obviously, they changed some things, and some things are updated and truncated because they don't have as much time, but so good. There's not nearly as many faithful adaptations as something like Invincible. I like John Byrne's Batman and Generations 1 to 4. It's solid. It's solid. T.S. Luther is live, Mr. Fish. I've been talking about you. I didn't know you were in the chat. Ignore all the terrible things I said. Only remember the good things, chat, right? All those nice things I said about Fish, don't tell him the good stuff. Dan Mora is a god. Dan Mora is my god. I love Dan Mora so much. Like dream artist to work with some point, but I would be too intimidated, I think. But I love so much of his stuff. That was a big day in my household. We're big Buffy fans, and when he was doing the first volume of the Buffy reboot, I was like, oh my god, this is my favorite thing I've ever seen. I saw Challengers of the Unknown last week. I was like, why are suits? Oh man, Challenges of the Unknown coming back is fascinating. That's like such a, I wouldn't say like hidden gem necessarily, but such a classic. Big fan of something like that. Flash Gordon, some of those older sci-fi pulp like stories. I love so much stuff like that. That really went into the Digger. If anyone gets a chance to check that one out when it comes out, that's heavily inspired by those older pulp stories. Chip wrote Public Domain. Not sure if I'm going to buy it. I'm new to him. Public Domain is awesome. If you have any doubts, Public Domain, Sex Criminals, like amazing stuff. Chip, really talented. Love the tweaks they made to Invincible. Me too. Solid changes. There was a few continuity stuff I didn't love, where it's like order of operation stuff that they did, again, to truncate it down to season 1 reveals. I like the slower burn of the comics, but so many of the updates were for the better. I like underdogs. Can you tell? No, I couldn't tell. What's in that thumbnail image that I see? Bet DC had to get that copyright and TM renewed. Oh man, when some of those characters started showing up in the Arrowverse, I was like, this is fascinating. I'm getting likes. Oh, some people are seeing the video that I posted promoting this live. That's what I'm getting likes for. I was a little bit confused. I'm like, why am I getting likes right now? I haven't posted anything yet. Oh man. Does anybody have any questions about creating comics, publishing comics, anything else that you want to know about Hellion and Bash #1? I got about 10 more minutes before I have to go. I'm also a dad full time, so I got to go pick up my kids and make sure that they're alive and fed. My main thing is comics, but every once in a while I like to, make sure my kids are still alive. I haven't read DC since Rebirth, One Shot, and Marvel's Secret Wars. Oh wow. A lot of really cool stuff has happened. A lot of really cool storylines, and like always in comics, you can just jump in the middle of it. There's, you're not going to miss everything. You're not going to catch everything, even if you were reading along with it. So there's lots of cool places to jump on. I highly recommend Darcy's run on Daredevil. There's so many cool Spider-Man things going on right now. World's Finest is another one. And World's Finest, I would recommend jumping into if you like Mora, because you can jump in because it's Silver Age Batman and Superman. So you don't have to stress necessarily about current continuity. It's more playing with the older continuity and updating it. So you can just jump in there and have a blast and not really worry about everything that's happening right now. Favorite indie comic series? Well, I'm partial to Hellion and Bash and Tokyo Fire, but Green Zone from Mr. Fish Comics, highly recommend you go check that out. It's basically X-Men meets Training Day, and it's live on Kickstarter right now, issue number 4, edited by moi. So I love that series. Colonel Jefferson is another one that I'm a big fan of. I love that meta journey and so applicable to the current state of our world right now. So definitely go check that out. Lucky 33 Comics, everything that they've done, but especially New Luminaries, the most fun, like just actual fun that you're going to have in a superhero comic, like ever. And it's filled with 90s nostalgia. So if you like anything like that, Mega Man, Street Fighter, that kind of thing, you're going to really enjoy New Luminaries. So those would be my 3 favorites. And then more on the artistic side of it, I would recommend Drawn to Key West. Okay. Teresa is here as La Fumitesta on TikTok. Go look up Drawn to Key West. It's an autobiographical, kind of like journalism comic book. It's a graphic novel about her interviewing artists that are buskers basically on the streets of Key West. And it's just magic. I can't recommend it enough. So those would be the 4 that I would recommend. I know that that's a lot to remember, but if you can, check out any of those. Nice. I'll look at World's Finest. It's solid, dude. I love that book so much. I was just reading it, and what else? There's so many comics around my house just thrown about. Every room has a comic book that I'm in the middle of reading. Green Zone looks good. I've seen New Luminaries. Heck yeah, those are all awesome. And like I said, I can't recommend them enough. I've gotten the chance to write in all of those worlds, and it's been really fun. And I don't just recommend them because they're my friends and that I've written in those worlds. I recommend them because they're good and they're worth spending your money on. Cosmic Times, how's it going? Green Zone is deep and awesome. Yeah, but I don't know if you want to trust the biased source that is Mr. Fish Comics. So take my word for it. I don't make any money off Green Zone, and I think it's rad as hell. Bro, are going live all day? I'm not going live all day. I'm actually only live for another 5 minutes, Cosmic. But I would love to go live with you sometime. I feel like we are like 2 ships past in the night every single time. But let's go live together again soon, and so we can chat. Because every time you get on, I'm like, oh, see you guys. I gotta go. I promise I'm not avoiding you. Let's make it happen. You have my DMs. We're mutuals. How do you write your scripts? Detailed as Bendis? I don't know if detailed as Bendis. I write really similar to Fraction, which is where I learned how to just like script comic books. But I write panel to panel style. I don't do Marvel style. Page 1, panel 1. This happens. This person says this. Panel 2, this thing happens, this person says this. That's how I do it. I have amended that for every artist that I work with. Everybody likes to see a different thing, and you have to adapt for every single new team that you work with. So that changes every once in a while, but that's my preferred style. I have an idea going in. I don't ask for certain layouts usually, though. I won't say this is specifically this thing. If I do 9 panels on a page, I'm expecting something similar to a 9-panel layout, but I try to leave that on the floor, and you can kind of come up with your own layout. But I put what I need to happen in there. If you can make those things happen in a different way or a cooler way, your idea usually wins as an artist. But I put what needs to happen and what I would like to see and how I pictured it in my head in my scripts. So panel to panel is usually how I go. I'm toying with trying Marvel style. Have you ever tried it? I have tried it, and it depends on the artist that you're working with. I've worked with some artists that are like, hey, I need more freedom to do something with this. Fish is a good example. I write panel to panel usually, and then every once in a while, Fish will come to me and go, hey, I kind of have an idea for this page. I'm like, okay, this is what we need to happen. We need to leave room for this character to say this. Other than that, go have fun with it. Do your thing. So I have tried it. sometimes it feels a little bit lazy on the writer's part for me to do it Marvel style. Like I feel like I'm not putting as much work into it. So you know what you want to draw. But some artists that I work with, they love that freedom. They love what they can bring to the table. So they do that. Sorry, I got kicked out. I was trying to subscribe to your YouTube. It's all good, Higgins. I appreciate it though. I love the freedom. Others need more direction. Right. Like some people really need to know. And I work with a lot of for hire artists who are like, listen, I'm gonna draw, like, you pay me well enough. I like what you're doing. I want to put exactly what you want on the page. So please do it panel to panel style. I've been asked for more description. I've been asked, hey, like what kind of attack do you want to see here? Like I've described a punch one time and he was like, okay, are we talking right hook? Are we talking like a Muay Thai type thing? Like what are we doing? I'm like, okay. So that script went really, really detailed. But in general, I do panel to panel and just kind of go in there and hoping that that's good enough for the artist. I'm lazy. That's why I want to try it. But if you've worked with the same artist, like you have, several issues over, you can start to go a little bit closer to Marvel style because they know what to expect from your writing, right? If you have a good enough partner that you can trust and knows what you're kind of aiming for, you can start to put in some of those shortcuts to get closer to a Marvel style. Did you study writing educationally? I went to college for teaching history and English, so a little bit. And then I went to accounting school, but not super well, not in like the traditional sense. I didn't go to college and take all these writing courses, but I still studied. So like I read anything possible that I could get my hands on. I'm a big reader, and I love reading comic books especially. So I studied everything in that way. And if I found a writer that I liked, I read everything that I could from them. Like Stephen King is a great example. Studied everything I could from him, and then I looked up anything he's ever said about his process of writing, including one of my favorite books of all time, On Writing. And I took what I could from there, and then you study and go from there and learn your own style. And so I study in that way, but taking a lot of classes, I didn't find as much value in. It was about finding the people that I liked, how they do it, learning how they do it, and learning how to incorporate those tools into my own tool belt. I didn't have. I have writer's block. I can scenes, but not a beginning, middle, and end. Any tips? Yes. So what I would recommend you do is do it closer to an outline style for now. And what I want you to do is I want you to put 3 bullet points on a piece of paper: beginning, middle, and end. Anything that you have, put in there. So if you know exactly where it starts, like you said, you have your scenes, put that bullet point in there. So you fill out those bullet points, and then when another idea hits you, even if it's the smallest thing, even if it's just in this scene, what if somebody has a teacup? I want to add that in there. A teacup sounds cool in this dinner scene. So you put teacup. And if you start filling out those bullet points, those little details, you're going to start to fill out that script. And that writer's block is going to slowly melt away. And you're going to see that you've filled in so much that you actually have a pretty concise story. You have like a pretty whole beginning, middle, and end thing there. And then you can go through, turn it more closely into a script and fill it out from there. But that's what I recommend. Start with those bullet points. No problem, dude. Any questions like that, I'm glad to help. I don't really get writer's block as much, but that's when I do have stuff. That's whenever I start any story, I start with those 3 bullet points. My daughter is about to start college, FSU, going after a history degree. That's awesome. I went to Saginaw Valley University here in Michigan. Not a great university, but I definitely attended there. And then Baker, which is another community college over here. And then I've done some like smaller ones here and there. But college, when it comes to history, like it's one of the few places, if you go to a good college, that you can still get good history, basically. But you can do a lot of that research on your own. It's just become so expensive to attend college without a good job at the end of it. And as I got closer and closer to wanting to do more writing, it just wasn't worth it for me to continue to attend. But I still recommend it if you can afford it. If the job that you're looking for needs that piece of paper as validation, it's still worth it to do, but it's just so expensive to go to college that I can't recommend it for most people. So if you want to be a writer, in my opinion, you can learn everything that you need to do and study that skill set without paying so much money to go to a university. But I think that's about it for me. I'm about to wrap it up. If anybody has any last minute questions about writing, publishing comics, Hellion and Bash, issue number 1. Issue number 2 is about to go live on Kickstarter. You can go to the link in my bio or type in Hellion and Bash issue 2. Click that notify me button to get notified when it launches next week. I'm really excited for people to check out the next issue. Thanks so much for stopping by. Have a good day. You're the best, Higgins. I appreciate you. I can't advise an artist to go to art school anymore. You really can't. That stuff is so expensive, and you can learn so much about what you want to do when it comes to like the arts just by following people online and studying the craft. Do your research, do your work, practice. That's going to go so much further than a lot of those degrees can take you for the amount of money that you have to put in. I'm not saying that it's useless. I'm just saying it's expensive, and you can do a lot of it alternatively. And you can learn so many of the tools that you need to become a good artist, a good writer on your own, and just with the computer. So I would recommend looking into that. But if you want to be a history professor, right? If you want to be an accountant, that piece of paper is important and usually mandatory. So it's definitely not useless. It's just so expensive. But thanks so much, everybody, for stopping by. I'm going to keep doing this, so drop a follow. Like I said, head on over to Kickstarter. Check out Hellion and Bash issue number 2. Follow me everywhere at TS Luther. I do this all the time. I talk about stuff. If you like pictures of cats or dogs, I also post them on Blue Sky. So thanks so much. I'm TS and I write comics. Have a great day. Now watch this old man try to hit the exit button slowly.